Hey friends. This is Rose AJ with the Carnivore Connection, where we have real, heartfelt, and soulful conversations that take place. Y'all, today I have with me Rachel, who is new to the carnivore way of life, but she's experienced some pretty tremendous benefits so far. Rachel, tell us who you are, what you do, whatever you want to share about your journey so far.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Rose. I'm really happy to be here. Glad that we could talk, not quite in person, but as close as we can get to it from this distance right now. But yeah, actually, I saw your interview as well on Dave's channel, and I was very inspired by it. And so it was one of the things that really encouraged me to go on his show and tell my story as well. Because one of the things that you mentioned is how important it is for people to tell their stories, and also just how important it is for people of color to come on and tell their stories, because it's not, it's not a political thing. It's not. It's it's a human thing. You know, we're all human. We all have human bodies, and we all need good food. so so yeah, I thank you for your interview and the influence that had on me. As far as my life, my journey, and how that started. So, let's see. I was probably, just as far as upbringing goes, kind of a normal upbringing. As far, we'll say food wise, a normal upbringing. Um, we had times of bounty and we had lean times. There was more beans and rice in the lean times, and more of everything else in the other times. But I managed to do okay. But I always had issues with my attention, especially from a young age. My teachers would complain about, oh, she's a space cadet. She's staring out the window. She's spacing out. And even as an adult, I've had problems with attention. And I mean, I'm not like diagnosed, with ADHD or anything like that. It's just it's been something that's been a struggle um, in my life up until recently, you know. Um, and then as far as weight goes, I didn't have a problem with my weight until in my 20s. And in my 20s, you move out of the house, you start buying your own food. There's a lot of pizza and ramen noodles, and and so I didn't make the best choices there, especially with the fast food. It was all about convenience, and that was when I really, really started to see um, my health uh, deteriorate a little bit, or I shouldn't say deteriorate. I'll say be affected by my food, and I kind of didn't really put two and two together at the time. Eventually, probably into my 30s, I learned that when I eat fatty fish like salmon, my brain is happy, because I used to get migraines really bad in my 20s. Like it took me out. I was out. I'd have to go in a dark room, close my eyes, and press my hands on my head like a vice, because it hurt so bad. And then I would have the aftershocks the next day, where just anytime you lean over or move a certain way, it's just wham, wham. So, and then I found out when I started eating fatty fish, like I said, the salmon, that all but knocked it out, which was pretty amazing. That was the first time I really learned, like, wow, my food does make a difference. But did I really listen to myself on that? No, not so much, not so much. So fast forward a bit, um, let's say into my late 30s. I had actually a lot of success in my mid 30s with losing weight, because I had gotten heavy from in my 20s and my bad food choices at the time, plus a lot of stress just from life stuff at that time. Um, there's a thunderstorm starting here. It might get a little loud in the background there, but but yeah, in my 30s, I had lost 80 pounds, which was pretty amazing. I did that mostly through, I ate a lot of salmon because I liked it and it worked for me. And I reduced my portion size, and I lifted weights a lot. And so that was how I did that. And that was in my, like I said, that was in my mid 30s. And then into my 40s, what I was doing wasn't working anymore. And that was incredibly frustrating, as I'm sure a lot of people, other people can relate to that. So by that time, I was married to my second husband, my husband that I'm with now. And he was always very into the vegetarian lifestyle. I had always been more of a meat eater. And so we were sitting down at like our first date that wasn't really a date. And I'm like eating my steak, and he's eating his veggie stuff. And it was kind of like, so you like that steak? Huh? I'm like, yes, it's wonderful. So, but we continued the relationship, obviously. And I started to kind of slide more into the vegetables, more into the vegetarian. I tried vegan, I tried vegetarian, I tried pescatarian, I tried when in Romatarian, just whatever whatever they're doing where I'm at. But I found that on vegetarian diet, I wasn't getting the same results, that he was. I was putting on more weight, and the brain fog was getting bad. And I thought, well, I'm really confused. I just must not be doing this right. But then there was also this. I also have a bit of a sugar addiction. And so, sitting down like, oh, yes, I can have vegetables. That must mean I can eat cake. It's, it's like I can definitely stretch the boundaries. But yeah, that sugar addiction was a major thing. And let's see, right now I'm 52. So my husband and I have been together about 10 years. And yay. But I found over the years, as the years passed, I was putting on more and more weight, and the brain fog was getting worse. And I was like, I just couldn't understand it. I would try exercising, and I would try to do what I thought was the right thing, and it just wasn't going well. Now I know that I was in those perimenopause years, and so I didn't really, it's like you don't know until you get there. It seems like nobody, I won't say nobody talks about it. It feels like nobody talks about it until you start searching and looking for people to talk about it. And then it's like, oh, there's this whole group of people who are going through the same thing. So, yeah, it was a rude awakening for my body to be basically. It felt like it was rebelling against me. It felt like invasion of the body snatchers. And so, let me kind of go through the fun things that I've been experiencing. So, let's see. Okay, I mentioned the brain fog, right? The brain fog just got worse and worse. And then I had a lot of female problems. Um, like I have uterine fibroids, and they'd never bothered me until in the last couple years when they started really bothering me. And there was just excessive bleeding and so much pain that I was taking pain medication, strong pain medication, because we were going up and up and up with the doctors on the ibuprofen, and they're like, that's not going to work. So they gave me some other stuff, and I was trying that, but I was a little nervous because I'm like, this is kind of a little heavier stuff. Let me just kind of take the edge off and deal with it. So it would wake me up at 3 in the morning if I didn't wake up at 3 in the morning to take the pain medication, and so that's what I had to do. But it was really bad. And then I also have some food allergies or food sensitivities. I had sleep apnea, barely, but I had sleep apnea. Um, a huge amount of fatigue. Afternoons I would crash, just crash, no energy, and so that made it really difficult to get through the day. And so what I did was I drank a lot of coffee, 4 to 5 cups a day. I was drinking, and I don't make weak coffee, so it was the strong stuff. It was like you could almost stand a spoon up in it. It was it was strong coffee, but I drank a lot of that. I mean, obviously my hormones were way out of balance because what was happening should not be happening. You know, with these long periods, twice a month, 10 days, lots of bleeding, terrible cramps. My hair started breaking off. That was fun, just out of nowhere. Let's see. Depression. There was depression and anxiety. My doctors, they either, when they would take my blood numbers, you know, my blood, the labs, they would say, oh, everything looks good, you're fine. And it was so frustrating because I'm like, clearly I am not fine. There's a lot of things that are going wrong here. I'm not fine. And so when I would go to see a gynecologist, they would be like, well, yeah, you got fibroids. I mean, you know, you could just have a hysterectomy. You don't need your uterus anymore. You're done having kids, right? I'm like, I kind of like to keep my organs if I can. If it's gonna kill me, I'll get rid of it. If it'll kill me, I'll get rid of it. But other than that, I'd like to hang on to my organs. Thank you. So, and then like I said, the out of control weight gain, it just went up and up. It only went up, and that was incredibly frustrating. So that takes us to about December of 2023. Now at that time, I was feeling really crappy. I was desperate, and I felt like nothing was working. And that was very loud thunder. And I just didn't know what was happening with my body, and I felt like I don't know what to do. So I was like, well, maybe I'll start looking at keto again, because I had looked at it, but I could never sustain it, because again, I can eat veggies, therefore I can eat cake. That didn't work for me. I don't have very good discipline. So when they started talking about carnivore, where you just eat meat, that's it. I was like, at first, I was like, these people are crazy. They have lost their minds. And I was like, I'm one of those people that talks to the television. And so I'm listening to the YouTube videos, and I'm like, what? Are you insane? I don't care if you are a doctor. That doesn't make any sense, you know. So, but I kept listening because people were telling their stories, right? And you can't deny what somebody has actually experienced. They're not making claims against the whole public. They're saying, this is what worked for me. And I was like, huh. And the more and more of those I watched, the more I was like, maybe I should try this. So I thought, well, I got nothing to lose. Right now, my body's out of control. My brain isn't working. I feel like crap. I'm only gaining weight. I'm just going to try this crazy diet. So I ran out to the grocery store and came home with a bunch of meat to my vegetarian husband. And he was like, what is this? At first I was thinking, is there a way for me to hide this from him? There's no way for me to hide this from him. So I was like, okay, babe, so here's what I'm going to do. You know, I'm going to be eating only meat. He was like, well, don't expect me to eat that. I'm not eating that. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, that's all right. I'll make 2 dinners. It's no problem. And over time, I actually started to shift a little weight. And the brain fog started to go away. And all the water that I was retaining started to go away. And hold on, there's a whole nother list of those things. Okay. Joint pains started going away. My hands were always hurting. And my knees and my ankles, that went away. The energy had improved. I won't say that it's completely, fixed. I still have a little bit of an afternoon dip, but it's nowhere near what it used to be. And honestly, I'm still tweaking the diet for myself. I ended up having to get rid of dairy because growing up I had asthma. It went away when I hit puberty. And I saw that when my mother hit menopause, she had the same thing. She had asthma as a kid. It went away at puberty. When she hit menopause, it came back with a vengeance. And so I am scared. And so I'm like, okay, I am going to nix the dairy. That made my allergies get so much better. But I was hanging on, Rose. I didn't want to get rid of all the dairy, so I kept eating the butter. I love butter. It's that Kerrygold butter. It's so yummy. I put it on everything. I put it in my coffee. I'd froth it up. it was like a treat every morning. And then I hit Michigan. We were in Michigan, and all these allergies kind of coming back with a vengeance. Not a vengeance. It came back, and I was like, this is not what I was used to for these last few months. So I thought, well, what if I give up my beloved butter? And it's gotten fine. Everything's fine. I'm like, dang it. I didn't want that. I wanted nothing to happen because I wanted my butter. I was still in the back of my mind, hoping, praying that one day I can come back to my heavy whipping cream. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So, anyway, my waist got slimmer, so that's nice. Now, let me tell you what happened with the pain, because a lot of that had to do with the hormones. Now, I did work with a naturopath doctor, I worked with a gynecologist. I wore out my doctors because I'm like, I'm in pain, I need help. And so I got onto bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Awesome, love it. The pain when it was just adding the progesterone, at the time I was very, 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 very estrogen dominant, and so adding the progesterone at the time, right back to, I won't say normal periods, but better, much, much, much better, bearable. And then later on I added testosterone just for some energy and motivation, and then only very recently did I add estrogen because the estrogens come down. But so that may also be playing a part into it. So I just want to, be clear. There's that too. Um, but as far as with carnivore, I used to have really, really, really itchy red scalp, and and dandruff, and but it was mostly just really, really itchy. And I tried everything. I tried all the different kinds of shampoos and ointments and overnight treatments and all the things, and it just wouldn't clear up. I got rid of the vegetables, the starches, the sugars. No more itchy red scalp. No more angry scalp. So that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful because that was so embarrassing. You're just trying to talk to people you know. So I was so glad that that happened. I've lost 35 pounds on the carnivore diet. That's since the middle of January. Now, full disclosure, I was in wine country for a little while, so I had some wine. So my my weight has stayed the same, but I will say I have maintained the 35-pound weight loss. I still have a ways to go. I do. I still have a ways to go, but I feel optimistic. I feel really, really optimistic because I know that this way of life is really, really helping me in so many ways. Now, I've also, the hot flashes. Those were coming for a while. No hot flashes. Sometimes I get a little warm, but only because I'm physically active doing things. That's kind of normal biology, right? Acid reflux. I had bad acid reflux where I had to sleep kind of sitting up a little bit. Gone. Just gone. I feel like myself again. I'm not dropping things randomly. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but just dropsy, just dropping stuff. And I was like, why am I so clumsy? So that's not happening. Although sometimes I think more about it, like hold on to the phone, do not drop it. Um, let's see. My sleep has improved. I'm on about a quarter now of the dose that I was on for the antidepressant, and I am weaning off of it. And I am feeling really good. Actually, I can't wait to get off of it because when I don't take it, I'm kind of like on an every other day right now of the lowest dose. I feel better when I don't take it. I feel some of that euphoria that they talk about that carnivores get. And I was like, where's my euphoria? And it turned out, I think that this is just my own speculation. I think that that the medication kind of keeps you even so you don't go too high or too low. And so that's why I was missing out on that euphoria. But it's starting to happen. So I'm pretty excited about that. I used to snore. Oh, I said this, the sleep apnea. I used to snore, not snoring anymore. So that's great. Okay, there is this thing. I think it's called misophonia, where you hear a sound and it just makes you really angry. And it could just be any kind of random sound. But that has reduced a lot. Now, I listen to Georgia Ede. I've been listening to her ebook because it's very, very large and very dense. So I'm like, rewind, say that again. But but I absolutely love Georgia Ede. She is a doctor from Harvard. I'm sure you've heard of her, and she does a lot of. She's had a lot of success with her patients, um, helping them to improve their brain, their behavior, their mood disorders, schizophrenia. I mean, you name it. It's either improved or cured for the most part. There's a few cases that are a little stubborn, but she said, for the most part, have either been improved or cured by going onto a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet or a really, really modified paleo diet. So I love listening to her. Chris Palmer, there's also another doctor that's really into the brain changes from the carnivore diet or from a low carb diet. I mean, I'm blown away by how much has gone well. And so my husband noticed the changes. Now I had been kind of working on him a little bit to add a little bit of fish here, a little bit of chicken there. Um, in the past, that had been the last few years, and but he, like I said, he wasn't really into the red meat at all. So he saw the changes that were happening with me and just how much better I was feeling, how much really how much better I was feeling. Just the success that I've had with this diet. Freudian slip there. That so he noticed, and now he's like, "Well, I don't want to do that, do the full thing with the carnivore." So I said, "Why don't you try keto?" You know, because he doesn't have food sensitivities to the vegetables. So I'm like, why don't you try keto? He likes the Mediterranean diet. So he did the Mediterranean keto for a while. He lost 17 pounds. The man does not need to lose weight. He looks great, and he's one of those guys. He climbs mountains. He's riding his bike. He's out walking and doing all these things and lifting weights. And I'm like, I'm just tired watching him. So but he wanted to slim down a little bit, and so I was like, okay, you know. So he tried it. He had success with it. He likes it. And then we talked to our doctor because we switched doctors. We also found a doctor that's a carnivore doctor from Dave's show, and she was nearby where we spend our summers. And so we met with her, and we talked with her about him doing carnivore. He had been, like I said, so many years doing vegetarian, and so he just wanted to make sure that it was safe for him. And he wanted to get a doctor's advice on it and look at his lab work and all that stuff just to make sure. And I was like, because I didn't want to say, oh yes, I think you should. I mean, I thought he should, but I didn't want to say yes, I think you should because I'm not a doctor. So we got the doctor's advice. She gave the green light. She said try it for about 90 days, and so far so good. We're coming up to the 90 days, probably like 2.5 months right now, and he's liking it. He's actually liking it. We thought he might have some tummy troubles from the steaks because I love steaks now. I feel best on red meat. It's exactly what my body wants. My body wants the red meat. So I've been that's always, almost always on the menu for dinner. And so we just gave him a little bit, and it was hard to give up a little bit of that ribeye, you know. So just a little bit, and then he started to get his own ribeye, and so, but he's doing really well. He's doing really well. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just looking through my list here. I feel like I'm getting myself back. I felt so buried in the depression about 7, 8 months ago. No, more than that, 9, 10 months ago. And I finally went ahead and took the antidepressant medicines, which did help me. I didn't have as many side effects as I thought I would have. But I was just in a desperate, horrible situation with my outlook on life and just what I thought my future was going to be. And I thought, well, is this it? I'm just going to go from my office chair to my couch to my bed? Is that all I can do? And because I was so exhausted, so depressed. But I got on the antidepressant medicine to get me out of the ditch, to get me to a point where I could lift my head up and see and think I have to do something about this, you know? And it did its job. And then I found that there's carnivore and we can do this without the side effects, because there were some side effects, you know, and I don't want them. I don't want them in my life. I don't want them in my body. And carnivore is much better, and it's going well. It's not perfect, but it's going well. It's going really well. Like I said, I feel like I'm getting myself back again, because I felt like I had lost that for several years. And it's just really, I want to say invigorating. I'm not sure if that's the word I'm really looking for, but it's really great to have myself back again.
So, Rachel, thank you for sharing that.
Hmm.
And coming back to yourself, I can completely understand that because for me, I got kind of lost in the shuffle. I allowed life to beat me into submission. My thing is had I have been told that it was diet related all along, I don't know if you ever do this, but you reflect back with your interactions with your providers and you think, how many times had they ever said anything about dietary protocol?
Hmm.
Nobody ever said anything about dietary protocol to me.
No.
I mean, I was a full blown sugar addict, a full blown food addict, compulsive overeater, binge eating disorder, it was a mental illness, right? So I've carried this my whole life. And
Mm.
had it been said that if you change some of the things you're eating, you might change some of the outcomes and symptoms that you're having. So I got angry and
Yes.
became my own best advocate because I'm like, I will either die trying to find the answer, but I'm not going to sit here and die waiting for an answer, right?
Love
So when
that.
you think back to some of your interactions with medical staff or your long-term care providers, what were some of the things that they offered you besides medication at, to help you with whatever you were going through?
Hmm. I have tried a number of different kinds of doctors. For the most part, I went to the regular, what is, I forget, is it allopathic? I think it was. But the regular, trained Western medicine type doctors. And I think that they mean well. I think that their hands are tied in some ways because of the guidelines that they're allowed to, that they're restricted by. But I think also that some of them get very arrogant, and they don't like somebody coming in and disagreeing with them. They don't like somebody to say, well, yeah, but I heard that, this other thing would work better. Well, what about my diet? Well, what about, different things? What if I want to do a natural way? They don't, a lot of them, I won't say all of them, a lot of them just don't want to do it. They don't have time. They got 5 to 7 minutes to try to do something about your problem. I won't say that they have 5 to 7 minutes to solve your problem, because you really can't. I don't think that they can. They have 5 to 7 minutes to do something, and usually it's writing a prescription, and that is very frustrating because if they have 5 to 7 minutes and you have a list of questions, and you're trying to digest what they're telling you in quick talk, you have to process that, and then you have other questions that are follow-up questions. And, well, wait a minute, what about, it's very frustrating. And it's especially frustrating when all they look at is your blood work and say, you're fine, you're healthy. I'm not healthy. I'm definitely not healthy. Something is wrong. They just say, well, okay, well, you'll just have a hysterectomy. That should be fine. Why would I want that kind of invasive surgery if if there's some other way to handle this. And then, oh my gosh, I had one doctor. She was offended that I asked for a the bioidentical progesterone. She wanted to put me on a birth control pill, a progestin only birth control pill. Now, a lot of people have had problems with, um, well, I won't say a lot of people have had problems. There is the controversy about problems with hormone replacement therapy. My understanding is that a lot of it had to do with the synthetic progestin, which, is the synthetic version of progesterone. So she wanted to give me some progestin. I didn't want it. And I asked for the progesterone. And she was like, oh, fine, you can try it, but you'll be back here for the other thing. Just take this one. So at least you have it and you don't have to come back. I was like, wow, I don't think I'm coming back anyway. But there were some doctors who, there was one point where I had labs where my cholesterol was a bit high, like just right on the edge, or just slightly over the edge. This doctor could have put me on a statin because I knew nothing except that other people were on statins, and when the cholesterol is high, the LDL's up, so do I need to be on a statin? He actually knew to look at the triglycerides versus my HDL. And he said, no, your triglycerides versus your HDL, those are really good. So, oh no, you don't have to be on a statin. I was like, and I was worried. I was like, oh no. I learned later that he was absolutely right. So and there's all these doctors that I look at on YouTube, like Dr. Eid, Dr. Palmer, Dr. Ovadia, Dr. Chafee, Dr. Barry, all these doctors that I love to watch them. And some of the stuff I'm like, my eyes kind of glaze over a little bit. Like, hold on, what? But but thankfully there's Rewind and Google, and I can look things up. And there's some really, really good information there. Really good information. And so I have learned that I need to be my own advocate. The conclusion that you came to, I came to that as well. Because if I was going to see a doctor that I could afford, they're not going to be able to care for me the way that I need to be cared for. If I was going to dip into my retirement to pull out thousands of dollars to see a naturopath doctor for a limited time, then I could get some good information, but it was kind of like overwhelming information, an overwhelming amount of information, which was a good thing because I get a lot out of it, right? That's a good thing. I wish that we had done smaller bites over a longer period of time, so that I could have time to try different things and see what would work. But even then, I was told to eat the rainbow, and I did a what do they call that? An elimination diet, and I found there are a number of things that I couldn't eat, and it was really hard for me to sustain that. And so I ended up going off of it, and I ended up back where I started, put on most of the weight that I had lost on that elimination diet. And no, I put on all of it. Did I put on all of it? I put on most of it. I put on all but 10 pounds. And so that was discouraging because, but at least I got the hormone information. So that was fantastic. That saved me from those painful moments. And that hasn't come back. I was a little worried, to see what is going to happen to my hormones on carnivore, because I'm getting all this protein, I'm getting different nutrients, and I'm not, I suspected I was not getting other nutrients because I wasn't having all the plants. But it's been fine. It's been fine. I feel great. Why am I going to, no, I'm just going to move forward. I will tell the people who want to hear it. And if, they don't want to hear it, they can move on. That's fine.
So So have your family in general or your neighbors or coworkers, have they been supportive or curious or asked you about the carnivore diet?
Well, my family has definitely been curious about it. My husband curious enough to start himself because he saw how well it was going for me. Um, my my I visited with my dad and my stepmom a couple months ago. No, a month ago. It was a month ago. And when I first when I first walked in, she my stepmother looked at me. She said, "Where's the rest?" She noticed how much smaller I was. I thought that was so funny. She cracks me up. But they were very curious. So they, we would have breakfast. She'd be like, "No bread, then, no bread." I'm like, "No, no bread, no bread. That's all you're having. That's all I'm having." So, so they were very curious. Um, and then my mom she's been a vegan for the last like I think 7 years or so, and 5 to 7 years maybe. So I was really worried. I was like, "What's mom gonna say?" And she is actually really happy for me because she sees how much better I'm feeling. And she saw how I was feeling before. She was the one that said, "This isn't right. You need to go to the doctor and find out what's going on." So I was really grateful for her to encourage me to do that because, okay, when things get bad, a little bit at a time, you don't notice how bad they are until somebody else says, "This is not right. You need to go to the doctor. You need to find out what's going on. Something needs to change." And so I was really grateful to her for that because that is what set me on this path. Even though I didn't find my solution right away, it took me like a year to a year and a 14, 15 months, something like that, to actually get to this point. And now, 7-ish months later, 7.5 months later, I'm seeing the results, and I feel great. I feel great. But yeah, my sister, she's been real curious, but she's like, "But your cholesterol's going to shoot up, right?" And I'm like, "It hasn't thus far. I've been checking my blood every quarter or so, and I suspect that it will go up at some point. It hasn't really thus far, like 4 points or so on the cholesterol and the LDL. It's really a small change. That might change in the future. I don't know. But I'm not worried about it. And I have a doctor who knows what she's talking about. She sees my labs. She's a carnivore. She's gone through her own health issues and come to her own conclusions about what kind of care is appropriate, what kind of care she wants to give. That was what was so inspiring to me, was to hear her say it in her own words, how she was frustrated because she only had 7 minutes with each person and she couldn't give good care that way. Now I went in to see her. We sat down for an hour. She said, "Hold on, I'll be right back. I got to help this person with something, but we'll come back and talk some more." I was like, "What? You haven't kicked me out yet?" Well, all right, I'll stay. I got more to talk about. So, so I love meeting with her. They are great. They are great. Yeah.
It sounds like you have a new medical bestie. Yeah. Your doctor,
Yes.
that is beautiful. You're very
She's been so
fortunate.
responsive. Her
Yeah.
and her assistant. It's like a small town doctor, which who's
Mhm.
even heard of that anymore? Everybody's
Right.
part of a huge medical association or something, or a giant
Yeah.
hospital with all these regulations and
Mhm.
rules. And they do what's right. They even have an evening number, like an after hours. Wait, what?
Okay.
What? When I first
You
reached
better
out to
keep her for life, girl. Keep her for
forever,
life.
forever. When I first reached out
Yeah.
on her website, and I had some questions, and I was like, well, they'll get back to me on Monday because I sent the email, I think Friday night or something. Saturday morning at like 8 o'clock, I get a phone call. And I was like, "Hello." She's like, "This is Dr. Talent." I was like, "What?" She called me directly. She said, "Well, I was going to send you an email, but I thought I'd just give you a call and answer your questions." Blown away. Absolutely
And
blown away.
and she's based in Texas
She's
or
actually based
Illinois.
in South Bend, Indiana. But because we come up
Indiana.
to Michigan over the summers, we're in Southwest Michigan. We got family over there too. My family's all spread out.
Lucky you.
Yeah, so we spend some time there every summer. So when I'm in town, I'll go see her in person and we'll talk. And then the rest she does Zoom calls. I forgot to mention, I as far as thyroid goes, um, I have always had pretty normal numbers with my thyroid, but I've always been a little chilly, you know, and a little sometimes low energy a bit, and so we went down the rabbit hole with the thyroid. And plus, okay, I have like this fatty deposit. We thought maybe it might be a goiter. It's not. This is just fat. It's just fat. But I even asked the doctor to check it out again. What is this? This is just fat? It feels like fat to me. So she confirmed, yes, it's just fat. Or she said adipose tissue, because doctors don't say fat. But 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 I did actually have it checked because there was a small nodule at one point, and so I had that. Oh gosh, it's like a fine needle aspiration biopsy. They stab you repeatedly in the neck with a needle. How come I was not sedated for this? That's what I wanted to know. So there's all these doctors around me. The guy's stabbing me in the neck, and he's getting mad at me because I'm by that time I'm crying. I can't stop swallowing because it's just nervous reaction, and he's yelling at me. And so I finally got through the doggone thing. Everything came back fine. It was benign, but I would not wish that experience on my worst enemy. So I ended up later on talking to a hormone doctor, and they said, okay, your numbers look fine, but if you're feeling these effects, then we can put you on the teeny, teeny, tiny little dose. And so they put me on Armour thyroid, which is the desiccated thyroid. So you just take it. I take it every morning. And Dr. Town said to take it with some iodine to help. And she said, we are going to be watching your thyroid closely because it will improve on carnivore. And I thought, I was so struck by that because most of the time when you go to the doctor, the expectation is that things will get worse. With her, the expectation is that it's going to get better. I love that. I absolutely love that. So that's my thyroid piece.
Oh, my word, girl. I think you have entered the carnivore way of life the best way that anybody could hope for. You found a medical practitioner that lives this lifestyle that you don't have to justify your lifestyle to, and who appears to
Yes.
be very supportive. And the fact that your husband is willing to try a modified version of it, or even just eating meat after being a vegetarian
For
for so long,
decades.
that's
Yes.
incredible.
That
That's
is incredible.
incredible.
Yeah. But I was
Yes.
willing to go it alone because,
Yeah.
like I said, I was a desperate middle aged woman and I needed help. And so I was willing to go it alone if I had to. I mean, I should say
Yeah.
not needed help. I needed to help myself. That was the conclusion I came to. But thankfully, my husband's on board. My doctor's on board. At least this doctor's on board. So
Right
that's great. That's
on.
really, really great. Yeah.
So, Rachel, before we close out, could you tell me, where do you hope to see yourself, your future self, 3 to 6 months from now? It could be with physical activity, your mindset, it could be work wise, travel, it could be anything. Where do you see yourself at 3 to 6 months from now? And does carnivore factor into that at all?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not giving up my miracle pill. I am absolutely keeping carnivore. Because now I know what to do. Now I know what to do. I was hopeless, despondent, and now I know what to do. Now I know what my body prefers, and in order to feel healthy, in order to heal itself, because that's the thing about the carnivore diet is the carnivore diet is not a miracle. The way that we were made is a miracle. And if the carnivore diet allows us to just get out of the way of what our body wants to do, the way that it was made to heal itself, to renew itself, to regenerate itself. And so, yeah, absolutely, carnivore is going to be part of my future for a long, 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 long time. Now, 3 to 6 months, I'd like to start getting better with exercise. I'm still kind of on and off again with exercise. I feel like I have a finite amount of discipline, and I have been using it for my diet. And if I get a little more overflow of discipline, I will use it for exercise. But so yeah, I'd like to improve my exercise. I'd like to see the weight loss continue. Um, I would like to see my brain and my thinking be clear. I would like to get off of the antidepressants and feel that carnivore euphoria. I would like to be hopeful about the future, which I am getting a taste of that now. Because, like I said, I was feeling like, oh my gosh, it's just everything is just deteriorating and the future looks bleak. But now I feel like, oh, I got time. I got time. I got all kinds of time. Let's do this. You know? I'm like, do I need to plan a second career now? I don't know. Or do I just keep with the one I have? I don't know.
You
I feel
can
like I
have
have a lot
six
of years.
careers if you wanted to, right?
A
Six
lot of
careers,
people can
yeah.
change careers about this time, you know, because the kids are raised and off doing their thing,
Yeah.
and so we got a lot of freedom. So
There
yeah,
you
I
go.
feel like things are going to be very good. I feel I feel very hopeful about the future, and maybe in a year or so, maybe I'll get down to my goal weight. I'd love to do that. I feel like I still have about 50 pounds or so to lose because
Okay.
I was up there. I was up there. Like I said, I kept only putting on weight, and that was really discouraging. But now I'm having some success. So I'm very happy. Very, very, very happy.
Well, and I also come from the standpoint that I believe that obesity is a hormonal issue,
Hmm.
right? It's a hormonal issue
Yeah.
versus a
Yeah.
caloric issue. Because once your body's healed, the weight loss is going to come like 10th down the road, right? Your body has to
Hmm.
do a lot of internal healing that we're
A
not
lot
going
of
to see
healing.
just yet.
Hmm.
But the weight
Yeah.
loss is all going to be a side effect of a healthy body. You know what I mean?
Amen. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, one final question that I have for you. Let's imagine that there's a woman that was in your same situation at 49, 50, 51, and the same exact symptoms, the depression, the ADHD, whatever symptoms you may have had up to this point. That particular woman, Rachel, is sitting on the couch. I mean, she's literally sitting on the couch. She's been beaten up. She's tried diet so many times. She's tried therapy. She's tried everything under the sun, everything. But she's just tired. What words of wisdom could you give her, Rachel, to help her to get up off the couch and try one more time? One more
Mm.
time, because this could be the final time to make it, right?
Yeah.
To make a
Yeah.
difference for the rest of her life. What words of wisdom could you offer?
Hope. Hope for sure. Um, Now I'm not the kind to preach at people and tell them like, well, you have to do this and you have to do that because that tends to not work. But if they're genuinely wanting to know what what could help, I would say look at the stories. If you don't want to look at listen to the doctors, you can come back to that. I think she ought to come back to that because having that knowledge is really helpful. But listen to the stories, get some hope. That was what did it for me. Listening to other people who were healing, who were getting their lives back, healing seriously serious diseases, and getting their lives back, and just seeing where they were now, that made me feel like, wow, well, if they can heal that, maybe I can heal myself. Maybe, maybe, you know? I know it's not guaranteed, but shoot, let's try it. Tried everything else. What do you got to lose? I mean, if you're concerned, get your blood checked every quarter. There are ways to do it, even if your doctor won't order it for you. You can go on to ownmylabs.com. You can go on to jasonhealth.com. You can order your own. I was going to say, order your own damn labs. And you can see what your numbers are. And because that was actually one thing that I really wanted to do, because initially my husband and my daughter were concerned that I was doing a disservice to myself. And I said, okay, I want to, you know, kind of alleviate the fears there. And so I promised I would get my blood checked. And they just saw how much better I was doing. They both saw how I was when I was in so much pain and when I was so depressed and I was feeling so bad. So my story ended up convincing them that even if it's may not be for them, it's definitely a good thing for me, you know? So that has been great, and that's made it possible to have support from family, because they see what it's doing for me. And the people around you, they love you. They want you to do well, even if it flies in the face of what they've always been told. If they see that it's working for you, they'll get on board. But look at the
And
story.
even
Yeah.
look at the stories. And even if they don't get on board, I think every individual at some level has that whisper, has that tuition inside of them that they know what's best for them. And when they
Mm,
stop listening to outside voices, society, and even family, even if they come off as being caring, if it opposes what you know to be true for yourself, you
mm.
have to have the guts and the gusto just to go for it, right? Not
Yes.
necessarily to prove them wrong, but to
No,
be
but
in
for
support of
yourself, to
yourself.
take care of
Yes,
yourself.
yes.
You have to.
And then speaking of lab work, I always like to say that when you do get your panels, whatever you're getting, to make sure that you include a fasting insulin because it tells the
Yes.
real story. So make
100%.
sure that you're asking for a fasting insulin. And if, like Rachel said, you can always go online and order your own labs and be your own best advocate. But please, 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 human people, get your fasting insulin. Know your fasting insulin number. It's a very important number
It's
to
the
know.
early detection system, right?
Yeah,
Way,
yeah,
way, way before your A1C. Decades
yeah,
before your A1C.
yeah,
That fasting
yes,
insulin will tell the story.
yeah. And I didn't
Yeah.
know about fasting insulin until 2018, doing all the research on my own, right?
I didn't know about it till this year. To reiterate, empower yourself. Empower
Yes,
yourself. It is your
yes,
body. You can decide to go ahead and care for it. So you
yeah.
can you can seek out the kind of care that will work for you. You can try the ways of eating to find out what will work for you. You can get your own labs to find out what's happening inside of you.
Mhm.
And even if people disagree with what you've chosen, like you said, you have the intuition.
Mhm.
Your body talks to you and gives you all kinds of signs. All kinds of signs.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much again, Rachel. So,
Thank you for
guys, this is
having
Miss
me.
Rachel, an interview that we're closing out with. I am so excited for her. She's doing it right and she's doing it her own way, right? You're creating your own roadmap, your own blueprint.
Yes.
So, I'm Rose AJ, the Carnivore Connection, where heartfelt and soulful conversations take place on a weekly basis. So,